Roll call.
Jizzle. Deal.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Luce. Zittergren.
Here.
Hadley.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Is there anyone here who would like to bring something before the council? Please do so. Come up, state your name, address.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Hanson. My address is 3469 Locust Road, north of
Okay.
here of Decorah. I'd like to just briefly touch on something so everybody knows what's going on, and I'm hopefully going to be discussing this at a later date if I can actually get on the agenda here at the City Council. For approximately the last 6 months, this council has been discussing how wonderful it is to have control and having jurisdiction over the 2 mile kind of green belt that you had talked about around the city of Decorah on any kind of development around there. And I'm not here to argue that point. You have that under the law. And you have used that recently when somebody has come here to try to build in that 2 mile zone. You have, I'm talking about the Kratz division, if you're not aware of that. You made this person go before the city Planning and Zoning Commission twice. You had him accede to stuff that the Board of Adjustment wanted to see done in order to gain your positive vote on trying to get his development passed. Ultimately, he didn't. And what I'm going to talk about just briefly here tonight is a change in the law that allowed you to do this back in 2022. And basically what this law states is that if you're going to exert jurisdiction over that 2 mile zone, you have to add 2 people to the Board of Adjustments and 2 people to the Planning and Zoning Commission. One of those people has to be the supervisor that lives in that zone or someone appointed by the supervisors. And the second person has to be someone engaged in agriculture in that zone. And basically what this does is give them representation, at least on the boards that control their lives, their property, and their income. Right now, they have really no say over that. You have jurisdiction over their property, over their lives, and over their income, and on the tax base of this county. And they really have no representation on the boards. So I just wanted to let everyone be aware of this. And like I said, I'm hoping I have the 2 council people backing me on this that will put me on the agenda on July 17th to talk about this in more detail.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the council on anything that's not on this agenda? Hearing, seeing none. Decorah Historic Preservation Commission communication.
Good evening, afternoon.
You might want to just pull that down just a little. There you go. Thank you.
I've noticed that most city council agenda items are requests. So I thought I'd switch it up a bit by coming tonight only with thank yous. Thanks, first of all, for the annual budget amount that provides for the historic preservation continuing education. In early June, Haley Jackson and I traveled across state to Sioux City for the state's premier preservation conference. We learned a lot of interesting things that we will in the coming months share with the other 5 commission members. We had also applied and were accepted to present a session at the conference. We titled it "A Big Architect in a Small Town, Charles Offlish in Decorah." Because we were the last session of the 3-day conference, we were worried about attendance, but we had a large engaged crowd who all knew about Decorah's charms and were eager to learn everything we could tell them about Offlish. One woman asked if she could have a half dozen of our brochures to share with her brothers and sisters who all regularly come to Decorah, sometimes alone, sometimes together. And a couple of people expressed amazement that we have 3 National Register historic districts in town, 1 residential and civic, 1 commercial, and 1 educational. At the opening plenary session, as some of you may know, we were presented one of the annual Preservation at its Best awards. Given that many of the awards were for multi-million-dollar tax credit leveraged building restoration projects, we were proud that they gave equal prominence to our small-scale off-leash research project. So another thanks to you for the hotel motel tax allocation that funded our brochure and for allowing us to use some of our 2022 budget for mounting extensive off-leash materials on the city website. Thanks also to Corey Peterson of IROC for the web design, Jeremy Brill, I see he's online, for the brochure maps, and especially to Jessica Rilling and Amanda Streeper at the Chamber for the brochure design, layout, and production coordination. So when I asked why we were given 2 copies of the Preservation at its Best award plaque, I was told that we might want to give one to the people who had provided the project's financial and organizational support. So my final thank you, therefore, takes the form of this plaque for the chamber, for the city staff, and mayor and council.
I want to thank, hey. I want to thank you and your committee for the hard work that you've done on this. I was excited to see the promotion of your attendance at that convention, and I appreciated you bringing it back to us into the city. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you again.
Okay, Police Department Annual Report for 2021 and 2022.
All right, first I want to apologize for not getting the 2021 report until today. What happened was when I applied for the position of police chief, the very first interview panel I sat in on was current police chiefs. And I prepared for my interviews. I knew it was coming, had a pretty good idea what I was walking into. The very first question I got asked in my interview was, what have you done working with your city council? None of you had probably met me when I was assistant chief. I know we never worked together. So I knew I had to rectify that. So for professional development, when I was appointed chief, I sat down with my assistant chief and I said, you're going to come up with a year-end report and present to the council. I looked at the captain and I said, and then that same year, you and I are going to work budgets. So you got a good understanding of what the budgets are. And then next year, your roles are going to flip. You're going to go over budget with me and the other one's going to write the annual report. Never came to fruition. We had some things come up in our department. So that's the reason for the tardiness in this report. I hope you've had a time to read through it. We're going to start with 2021. It's got the patch on the front of it. For a good portion of the year, we're still under pretty strict COVID regulations. Paging through the report, our personnel page is one of the first ones in there. As you can tell, we're a very young police department. Looking at the years of service can kind of be deceiving. What we've got listed is our years of service with our agency. So there's people in there, and I want to rectify that maybe with the next police chief and the report they give, but we should maybe include all the years of service that people have with agency so you have a better understanding of what we have for experience at the police department. In there is David Barrett. He's got just a couple of years listed, but he's got half a dozen with another law enforcement agency in Northeast Iowa. Also, Adam Yitzen and Dustin Van Gundy are listed in there with a couple of years experience, but they also have about a dozen years with other agencies. Going into the calls of service, this is our first year that we've had Central Square, where we were able to draw up records differently than we did before and type up reports. The list, there's a partial list. If you add it all up, it's not going to come up with the number of calls for service. I left off a lot of the ones or twos that were not big items, nothing to throw into a report. I also left off items that we're going to discuss later. number of accidents we responded to, OWIs, et cetera. So for redundancy, I didn't include those in there. It's going to be a nice list to have moving forward. I printed out the list before for quarterly meetings for the public safety. You've seen them from quarterly. So I think moving forward, once we get all the bugs worked out, it's going to be a really nice addition to our records management system. Abandoned vehicles, disabled vehicles, you see a lot of those. Keep in mind, we've got two major roadways and highways in Decorah. People break down on the roadways. People get cell phone calls on the roadway where they pull over. We always check on people on the highway. We've also got a lot of roadways in Decorah, which Jeremy can attest to, and he can probably give you the exact number of roadways and alleyways we've got. So we take care of disabled and abandoned vehicles. I don't know if the council is aware of it or not, but all the police officers are first responders. So you'll notice a lot of medical calls in there. Those are medical calls that we responded to. It's not just medical calls that come into the dispatch center. Those are ones we go to. We're all first responders. We're all patrolling the town. So if a call comes in with a medical emergency, we're already out and about. It's nothing for us to get to a situation and start to render aid compared to when an ambulance gets paged out and dispatched out. We do a lot of medical calls.
Dave, do you have AEDs in the rigs?
We do. Yep. Yeah, we carry them with us. Do you know where the nearest one is? There you go. Parking complaints. I'm gonna see if we can break this down further for future reference, because parking complaints or parking in our central square system encompasses parking complaints, parking tickets, and parking warnings. I know we can break it down better than that. So just when you read that number, though, know that encompasses all sorts of parking. Skipping over to the incidents. The major one we had during this year was, I'm sure y'all remember, Brandon, who special needs nonverbal student who was dropped off the first day of school and then disappeared. And they had images of him on video leaving the school grounds. Extensive search done by the school and local law enforcement initially. Not locating him, we called in the fire department to do a larger scale search, and still not locating him. Search and rescue team was brought in out of Cedar Rapids. It's a specialty, what they do. They came up to help out. I remember at one point I was talking to the team leader for the search and rescue team. And that's what all these people do, is search and rescue. And we were talking about how we're going to break up people into groups when we're going to open up volunteers for the city. We're going to put the word out that we need help. So we put the word out, and I'm sitting with the team leader, professional gentleman. He said, what we'll do is we'll probably get about 60 volunteers that show up, and we'll break them into groups with law enforcement and fire. I said, you're going to have a lot more than 60 people show up. He goes, what do you think? 100, 200? I said, no, it's going to be a mass showing. And he kind of gave us we've done this before and we kind of know what's coming. So if you remember or not, we had probably about 2,000 people fill that parking lot. So the response from the community was unbelievable. Brandon was later found that night. We called the search due to darkness, and we're going to start to regroup. Law enforcement sat back. We were planning what we were going to do that night as far as moving forward with the search. And we talked about how we're going to search the next morning and how we're going to broaden the search. And that's when the word came in that Brandon was found not too far away from the last time he was seen. And that was in the North Alley parking lot. He was healthy. We took him in for a medical evaluation, and he was healthy and just fine, just wasn't ready to go back to school. Another major issue that came in over the year was an overturned car in the waterway, 2 people trapped inside. It was December. I was on duty that day, and an ice storm had come up, freezing cold temperature. Car came from like the Twin Springs restaurant on Twin Springs Road coming toward Decorah, lost control of the motor vehicle due to the icy roadway, flipped, went off that small bridge, upside down in the body of water. The impact from the collision disabled the doors. They weren't able to open up their doors. 2 people happened to be nearby, saw it happen. One of the ladies was Kristen Albertson, and she immediately jumped into the water. And it's easy for you and I to sit here today when it's 90 degrees and say, yes, you jumped in the water. I'd jump in the water too. Again, this is December, freezing cold temperatures. Didn't think about her own safety at all. And if you know where that pool is, it's a deep pool. She jumped in, tried to render aid. Her friend who was with her called 911. Just on a side note, I later nominated her for a governor's award for life-saving, and she was awarded that. She received that honor. Our first officers to arrive on scene were Decorah Police Assistant Chief Brent Parker and a rookie patrolman. The guy had just started. hasn't been to any training, hasn't been to the academy. And he and Brent both immediately stripped off their duty gear and jumped in the water, tried to render aid, and they couldn't get the window breached or the door breached. And thankfully, we live in a small community. The fire department's right, usually behind us, and they had the tools to help us breach the doorway. We got everybody out of the water. Both people from inside the vehicle were taken to the hospital for observation, but luckily nobody lost their lives that day. Some notables from over the year. As I explained earlier, we started with Central Square this year. We installed it in April. That's our computer-aided dispatch and records management system, CAD and RMS. If you hear me say CAD, computer-aided dispatch, RMS, record management system. We completely overhauled how we keep track of all our statistics and what we do within the police department, and the same thing with dispatch. Huge undertaking. I know most of you were on the council when I put together the proposal for the purchase, and you know how expensive that was. So we started with that in April. They wanted us to have 3 staff members assigned to it when we went live, and to work with Central Square reps throughout the year as hiccups came, because we knew there was going to be hiccups and bumps in the road. We had no idea the amount of hiccups that were going to come up during the course of the year. We lost some personnel during that time period. So our staff of 3 who were assigned Central Square soon dwindled to 1. And that was my administrative assistant, our records clerk, Carrie Sovereign. And she handled every complaint that came in from night troops, day troops, Central Square for 1 year. I don't know if you remember, we gave her an award for the recognition for what she did during that first year. I've always wanted to join the National Night Out campaign. So I talked to Decorah Police Captain Scott Herman, and he volunteered to kind of get us going with that national project. And he set up the first National Night Out that we had, and that was this year. And I don't know if you attended or not, but it was a great turnout, great activities. He lined up the Buck Hollow Band. It was a really nice event. Turning to the training stat, I always want to keep track of our training hours because I feel very strongly about the education aspect of our job. Our roles, our jobs, our duties, the laws are always changing, and I want to make sure our officers are up to date and current. So we send people to a lot of trainings. We have a lot of trainings. We're also required by the state to have trainings kept up every year. The city has training requirements for supervisors, and we also have skills that we have to tone up every year. So that's why there's a lot of training in there. A lot of the trainings have switched since COVID. We used to go to conferences and trainings all the time. Now lately, the statistics in this one and the statistics in next year's, there's a lot of online trainings. Something new this year that threw in this year-end report is the state accident report statistics from the state of Iowa. All accidents over $1,500 in damage, we report to the state of Iowa, and they keep track of those. I went to their website and printed out a heat map so you can kind of see where the traffic accidents are that are over $1,500 worth of damage, and they break down the different categories. And they also have the stats, the bars, different graphs that you can take a look at. It's kind of a nice statistic addition to the year-end report.
Does that $1,500 number change year over year?
Yeah, when I started, it was 500.
Just kind of, because it doesn't take much to do
It didn't
$1,500.
take long to get 500, so they bumped it to 1,000. Then it's 15, and I think pretty soon you're going to see it go up again. We covered 320 accidents in the city of Decorah. That's all accidents. That's fender benders. That's all accidents. Traffic stops. You'll see there's a big discrepancy in the amount of traffic stops that we have compared to the paper that we're issuing afterwards, whether that's a written warning or citations. I'm going to get into that further. I did some more deep checking into it, and I've got some responses for why we have that discrepancy. Like I said, I'll get to that in just a minute. If you skip over to the next page, it's the arrests. We had 149 arrests that we made last year. Some notables in there is assaults doubled from the year before. Public intoxes doubled from the year before. And theft and shoplifting are now combined in our new record system. That's why you may see it in one year-end report and not another one. Going to the last page, narcotic statistics, you'll see we had an increase in cocaine seized and a pretty large increase in pharmaceutical cases. That's one of the big reasons we have the pill drop event. If you ever heard of the pill drop or seen us advertising for that, is we want to get the pharmaceuticals that aren't being used in the households. We want to get them out of households. It's too easy for people to get hold of them. Any questions over 2021? I'm gonna go through 2022, kind of at yeah.
So this is the first year that we have gotten statistics from CAD.
Yeah, this year is kind of a hybrid. First part of the year was sleuth.
2021.
Second part of the year was CAD
Okay.
all through Central Square. And some of the records are supposed to come over, all of them come over. So,
I just wanted to clarify that for myself when I look in at the next year.
okay, yeah, in April, we started with
Okay.
the go live and the implementation of,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. 2022, we'll skip over some of the things that we just talked about. Personnel page, again, we're a young department. I got to throw in the years of service for other agencies. I would like to take a minute to take a look at the hierarchy page. Chopper, can you put that up so the world can see it? You know what? We don't have time. Disregard. Finally got sick of the way that hierarchy page looked and kind of churched that thing up. Calls for service. Again, it's a partial list. I left out a lot of the ones and twos. I'll give you kind of a summary of the calls for service and how they differ from the year before. Increase in abandoned vehicles and vehicles we checked on was up 8%. Medical calls dropped 41%. No idea why we saw such a drop in the medical. We still do a good load of them, as you can tell by the number. Animal complaints increased by 33%. An animal complaint is all encompassing, whether there's an injured animal in my yard, a three-legged deer, we get those a lot. There's a barking dog, there's a nuisance animal like a raccoon on my front porch. So animal complaints kind of encompass a large amount. And for what we've gotten to court, we've got a lot of wildlife. Civil issues increased by 56%. Kind of an alarming one is domestic disturbance calls almost tripled. That is a statistic that is continuing yet this year. Seem to see a lot of domestic disturbances.
Reasons why you think that's happening?
I don't know if it was some of a hangover from COVID. I don't know, but it seems like they're more and more violent as well. Gas drive-offs were cut in half. I think you can contribute that to Quick Trip having the mandatory pay at the pump. Information calls increased 38%. We take a lot of those, and that encompasses a lot of different things too. Noise complaints cut in half. Parking issues were up 30%, but that's also when we implemented the new snow emergency parking, and the council said they want more done for it, so we went out and wrote more tickets. Shoplifting dropped by 1/3. Year in review. Folks know we started the new K9 unit. We purchased the dog in July. When you work with K9, you don't immediately get a dog that's trained. So we purchased the dog in July. That's midway through the fiscal year, through the calendar year. There's a get to know each other period where that K9 comes to live with you, and you guys, it's a great bond between the animal and the handler. So there was a time period where Loki came to live with Nick and they got to know each other. So we don't have any statistics from that. Then after that, you go to trainings and certifications. So I did not compile a list of statistics for the K9 in this year because it's only going to be a couple months. We are tracking everything with the K9, from programs to searches to seizures. So you will see those in upcoming years. We did the Cops and Rodders car show. Assistant Chief Brent Parker, I don't know if he saw it in another agency or came up with it, but wow, was that a success. And that was a real fun event. We had perfect weather, great event. We raised money that year, not for our police department, not for our K9, but we raised it for COPS. COPS is an acronym for Concerns of Police Survivors. It's a national organization. They serve families, coworkers, survivors of officers who have been killed in the line of duty. We in Northeast Iowa used that organization 4 times in 2021, so we wanted to give back. We again took part in the National Night Out. This year was even bigger than the year before. Again, Captain Herman took the lead on that and did all the legwork on it. Great time. Training hours are up again. State mandates 12 hours of training a year per officer. City requires 8 to 16, depending on the job title. Not included in these log of hours is the 619 hours that our police officers get at the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. This year that we typed this report up from, we had 3 in the academy during the course of the year. Some new components to our training toolbox is virtual reality. You'll remember we had that CIP for tasers in the virtual reality. That came to us midway through the year. David Barrett, our investigator, is taking the lead on getting to know how to use it. And I'm hoping that we can kind of incorporate that into the council coming down and seeing what it's like to get in a situation where you're encountering somebody. There's a taser that's not a taser. There's a handgun that's not a handgun. So you wear the same duty gear that we do, and it's virtual reality. You're in an alleyway, the lights from your squad car reflecting off the dumpster around you, and you encounter somebody and you have to decide what to do. So I'm hoping we can get a better grasp of how to work all the equipment.
I
And have
thought
you
you just
folks-
wanted to tase a council person.
I did it after I retired, you know what I'm saying?
Insurance.
I know better.
Be a really good
Insurance won't allow that.
You could get a lot of people to come down to Taser.
And the same thing for the public, not just the council, but I want the public to see it, to have a chance to see what it is. So Investigator Brett's working with that. We've already incorporated some of it into our taser training and firearms training. So we are using it, kind of getting to know it. If you flip through to the new pages or new faces, we got Trevor Thomas and Cody Emo, two fantastic gentlemen. If you haven't had a chance to meet them, great guys, great representation for the city of Decorah. And again, I went to the DOT page, printed off the state reportable accidents. We had 150 of them within the city limits. Again, the heat map is there. Arrests are 156. Traffic stops. I put in there that it's kind of concerning to me that we have a number of traffic stops, we have a number of citations, we have a number of warnings, and they're not lining up really well. So I don't know if that's something that's attributed to Central Square. I don't know if it's our officers aren't giving paper warnings out. They're giving verbal warnings out. It's really quick to tell somebody, hey, get your tail light fixed for a tail light issue. I've been out on foot patrol downtown and I've seen somebody do something silly in front of me. So I'll walk up to their car and I'll call dispatch, say I'm on a traffic stop on foot. I don't have my computer right there, so I can't log everything. So I was trying to figure out how can we have this discrepancy. So I've done a deeper dive into it since these reports went out. The first thing I did was contact all our officers in email and send out a directive that if you're doing a traffic stop, I want to see either a citation or a written warning come out of there. Those are tracked by the state. I have no ifs, ands, or buts that paperwork is correct when you read through the arrests or citations. They're all tracked by the state. Same thing with the written warnings. That's all tracked by the state. Those numbers are spot on. Again, I don't know if some people are on a way to a call and stop somebody and just say, hey, don't do it again and keep going. So that's one way we're going to look into trying to get it fixed. Number two was I looked up traffic stops in 2021. And I used a different search engine inside of Central Square. Instead of the calls for service log, I looked up traffic stops. In this new search engine, I came up with 442 traffic stops. That's different than the 633 that's listed on the calls for service. So I started asking around my records clerk on how that could be, the dispatch center, how that could be that we have that discrepancy. During the course of the year, dispatch went away from coding it traffic stop the way we normally do. And she didn't realize that what she was doing was messing up our statistics. The sheriff's clerk caught the mistake. We don't know at what point, how far along it went. Asked our records clerk, did you change this code? Our records clerk said, I did not change it. So we went to dispatch and they said, yeah, I didn't really know what it was. I didn't understand it. I didn't think we needed it. That is why we have such a large discrepancy in the number of traffic stops. So I don't think you're going to see it again. Running the numbers that I did with a new search engine today, 442 traffic stops, 198 citations. Again, they're processed by the state. That's solid. 261 written warnings, again, through the state, so I know that they were issued. So that's accurate. Along with 13 OWI arrests, that comes to 472. Why is there more citations and warnings than there are traffic stops? Sometimes you get 2 tickets, sometimes you get 2 warnings and a ticket. So that's where that discrepancy comes across. Running through the same numbers for 2022, different search engine, I came up with 541 traffic stops, which isn't too different than what we have for the calls for service of 534. So I think that is no longer an issue. I just wanted to clarify that and why we had that reason. Narcotic stats. Drop in cocaine, marijuana, and meth seized. Drug search warrants are down. Drug cases are down. We're also down people. Narcotics cases take a long time to work. So I think you're going to see a large difference in the narcotic stats this coming year, but judging by the number of statistics we've got for people who are already out doing drug work. So I think you'll see a turnaround there. Any questions about those? This is the last chance I'm going to have to address the council. I just want to take a second. I know I've gone kind of long-winded, but I just want to say thank you for Mayor for the appointment and the council for the vote of confidence. It's been a complete honor for me to work here in the city of Decorah. There's a short list of people that have the title that I've had with the police chief, and I've tried to respect that and honor that. And I want to thank you all for working with us. I want to thank everybody at the head table and for those of the heads, department heads that are on Zoom, because the relationship that we have interdepartment, I don't think you find that in a lot of other cities. And I also want to thank the citizens of Decorah in this area because the support that I've got from them, I can't even speak on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make one note too, that I appreciate once we got the CAD set up, that we're starting to get statistics in, even though that there was some issues with that dispatch, and that's got corrected because it's so much easier to be able to track, what those are. And if they're off, then you can look and see and be able to correct that as well. So I appreciate the work there. I also appreciate all the work that you have done as well, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Okay, consent agenda.
Item A, minutes of the June fifth, 2023 regular meeting. B, claims. C, tax abatement 108 Highland Drive #2, new construction, Quandall Properties. D, tax abatement 108 Highland Drive #3, new construction, Quandall Properties. E, change order #1 for Decorah 2022 Pleasant Avenue Improvement Project. F, pay application #3, final for Decorah 2022 Pleasant Avenue Improvement Project. G, resolution to accept Decorah 2022 Pleasant Avenue Improvement Project as complete. H, renewal of special class C retail alcohol license, Luther College Dolls Centennial Union. And I, renewal of special class C retail alcohol license, Luther College Baker Commons.
Move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Motion made by Olson, seconded by Luce. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Olson,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Jizzle, Neal,
Aye.
Zittergren,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carried. Conduct a public hearing on amending 17.16.190 of Decorah Municipal Code regarding home occupants. Can you give me a background on that, please?
So I'll combine the background for 7 and 8. 7 is the public hearing portion. 8 is the possible action of council. Let's see. So back in 2022, the state of Iowa adopted a legislation that changed what the cities were allowed to regulate regarding no impact home businesses. And so the proposed ordinance that's drafted was drafted by the city attorney to bring us in line with the new section of Iowa code under 414.33. And so there's a couple things we can no longer regulate, such as the total number of on-site employees and clients, as long as it doesn't exceed the occupancy limit for residential property. Don't do that. Item 2, the business activities are characterized by the following: limited to the sale of lawful goods and services. The activities do not generate on-street parking or a substantial increase in traffic through the residential area. The activities occur inside the residential dwelling or yard, and the activities are not visible from an adjacent property or street. We are still allowed to regulate some aspects of home occupations as long as they're narrowly tailored to the following: protection of public health and safety, ensuring the business is compatible with residential use of the property, surrounding residential use, secondary, the use of property as a residence, and complying with state and federal laws and paying applicable taxes. An item of note in here, there is a limit of 12 days per year for garage sales. And that's meant to be an enforcement mechanism that somebody running a retail shop out of their garage couldn't just say, well, I'm just having a garage sale. So that does have a section in there that says it limits garage sales to 12 per calendar year. I, for one, have done one for one weekend. I'm not doing one for 12 days a year.
This wouldn't then, I mean, I know that there are some houses that have a continuous rummage sale outside their front yard.
Mhm.
We can still enforce that that only happens 12 consecutive days a year.
Before we get into discussion,
Oh, sorry.
that's okay. I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and now you can go on to your discussion.
All right, so now we're on the actionable item. Again, the full red lines in the Dropbox file is 008A. Questions that council might have.
Hadley will make a motion, just, we can have discussion, but it's state regulated, so Hadley will make a motion to approve amending section 1716.190.
Second.
Motion made by Hadley, seconded by Olson. Now discussion.
Doesn't change the property tax classification, does it? If they're running a business, they're not commercial.
Correct. So property tax classification is completely different. That's set by the assessor, has nothing to do with this.
Can, I would like to make an amendment to it, section F3, where it says office facilities for ministers, priests, and rabbis. Those are pretty religiously specific. Can we just say office facilities for religious offering, just so it covers other types of religions besides?
I wouldn't see why not.
Okay. I guess office facilities for religious reasons to me makes it a little bit more encompassing. I think in my mind, we covered Judaism and Christianity, but I don't think that is what Islamic leaders are called or any other type of religious leader. So rather than detail the kind of religious leader.
So that would be duly noted.
If a friendly amendment is acceptable by the
I-
motion and second.
Okay,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then this would be the first reading because it is an ordinance, so there would be the potential for some changes to down the road, but of course, if they're substantial, we would change back to again, another first reading.
any other discussions? Roll call.
Hadley,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Chisel.
Motion carried. Conduct a public hearing on amending sections 17.16.030 and 17.68030 of the Decorah Municipal Code regarding accessory buildings and permitted accessory uses. Can you give some background on that, please?
Yes, so I will lump the background together for 9 and 10. Again, 9 is the public hearing portion. Item 10 would be the actionable item of council. So the proposed amendment, there's 2 sections to that. One would actually take the accessory permitted accessory structures limitation, which used to be 14 feet tall, and it's proposed to be 25 feet in the ordinance. That brings it in compliance with what council just approved as the change in bulk regulations. And again, under 176830, the other code section would add permitted accessory use, paragraph C, an accessory dwelling unit, where the ADU is further defined as a fully contained with its own kitchen, bathrooms, and sleeping area, where the owner of the property resides in either the principal structure or the ADU. That was something that planning and zoning did want to emphasize, that one of those 2 structures was owner occupied. P and Z has reviewed the proposed ordinance and does recommend approval.
Okay,
No, this section, I'm looking at my background notes and I see I got a or a sentence from my previous notes actually in there. So the first sentence in my background notes actually shouldn't be in there.
okay, remind me, I think I closed the public hearing,
Mhm.
correct? Okay, thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And now this would be number 10. Consider an ordinance amending section 17.16.030 and 17.680.030 of the Decorah Municipal Code regarding accessory buildings and permitted accessory units. First reading.
Luce would move approval of the first reading.
Second.
Motion made by Luz, seconded by Zittergruen. Discussion?
Just a thank you to P and Z for their work on the ADU concept. We have talked a lot, both in big groups and small groups, about the need for more housing and with grandparents coming to town or family or if Luther were to expand again and need off-campus housing, ADUs are a good way to address those things. And so thanks to P and Z for being proactive.
Okay, roll call.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Jizzle, Neal.
Aye.
Conduct a public hearing on second amendment of spending authority for fiscal year 2023 budget. Are you working with that?
Yep, I'll
believe
present this one.
Is
So-
Decorah 7 carry?
No, I think that's Renee. She's
Okay,
taking,
I've got you.
helping
Okay.
take minutes for me.
Okay. Can you give some information on that, please?
Yes, so on the budget amendment, again, I'll do my best to lump together 11 and 12. We do have to hold a public hearing before any budget amendment can be considered by the council. The budget amendment is meant to rectify, when we go through the budgeting process, we're trying to figure out what we're going to spend monies for from the next 6 to 18 months into the future. And that's somewhat of a moving target based on projects when, capital projects get completed, when delivery of equipment is taken. So there are some variables here. And that is the explanation of these changes are just that. Equipment purchases, the North Alley Improvement Project, talking about when the timing of that payment happened, as well as budgeting for fee increases, so a revenue side as well as police department staffing.
Resolution.
Yeah, no, I have to
Okay.
open a public hearing.
Each reading has to have it.
What's that?
Each reading has to have a public hearing.
This is a budget amendment, so this one needs to have a public hearing.
Okay. So I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak at this time? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Now consider resolution to approve second fiscal year 2023 budget amendment.
Second by Luce.
Motion made by Chisel, seconded by Luce. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, roll call.
Jizzle,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider approval of awarding Hacker and Nelson for audit services. Travis?
Yes, so the RFP that was issued by council in May was for proposals for a 3-year contract. The city only received one response from Hacker Nelson, which has a base FY23 bid of 42,500, but then actually did provide an option for 3 additional years, so a total of 4 years. But each additional year beyond the first would increase by 4%.
And just a note that last year we did for just 1 year and it was 40,000, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Services with Hacker and
Second.
2 years at 4%.
So
3 years.
3-year total.
Second.
Motion made by Chisel, seconded by Neal. Any further discussions? Hearing seen none, roll call.
Chisel, Neal,
Aye.
Sittergroon.
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Consider requesting for matching funds for US DOT Safe Streets and Roads for All. It says for a planning and demonstration grant. You give some information. Are you giving information on that?
Yep, I'll give some base information and Jeremy is joining us via Zoom that if there are further questions. So Jeremy did identify the SS4A planning demonstration grant as a way for the city to take federal funds, leverage them against local funds and do more pilot to permanent projects as well as some additional planning. Pilot to permanent, if you think of the Fifth Avenue lane reduction with delineators. So Quarry Street, the improvements there, they are not going to be done during street plan 23, we're calling it, if I remember right.
24.
During this 24, thank you.
This year.
Yeah, this building cycle, we're not, Quarry Street won't appear to be in there. And that was a $220,000 estimated project cost. And so Jeremy does have in the packet a proposed amended street plan that if council does want to move forward with this grant application, which would be an 80% federal match. The proposal is for a $200,000 grant application, 160,000 federally funded, 40,000 local funds. These could be used for several different projects like adaptive lighting, crosswalk visibility, pilot speed limit reductions, traffic calming, separate bike lanes, road diets, other things, as well as planning efforts like a comprehensive safety action plan, which takes a look at the whole street network and transportation network and identifies different high hazard areas and makes suggestions to high level suggestions for improvement, as well as updating the ADA transition plan and looking at street lighting evaluation.
It's awesome. I make a motion to approve the matching funds for a US DOT Safe Streets and Roads for All planning and demonstration grant.
Second.
Motion made by Neal, seconded by Olson. Discussion.
I've heard from voters, Decorah residents, both who are happy and who are not happy about the temporary or the pilot to permanent project on Fifth. I've heard from many parents who feel much safer crossing that intersection because of that experimentation. And people who are at Pulpit who work there say it's amazing how much less often I hear people squeal on their brakes or, then someone starts screaming. It's just a much less chaotic intersection now. As a driver, sometimes I've had to wait 20 seconds longer. And I know that other people sometimes have to wait when they otherwise could have taken a right turn because they're behind someone who wants to take a left turn coming off of Fifth. And I feel like, this is a great opportunity for us as a council to experiment with choosing to prioritize safety for our residents, especially for our young residents who don't get to drive everywhere they go, over saving a few seconds here or there. This seems like pretty no-brainer reprioritization of the way that we think about transportation planning and investment in our community. And I'm extremely grateful for all the legwork that's gone into this. Thank you.
I also have heard almost equal ones, people who like it or don't like it. Only my own personal, I like it. I think I had a hard time trying to figure out who's coming where and when. And so I appreciate myself, but that's only just a side comment.
I would just like to reiterate the same type of thing I've heard from both sides, but I think most people that are adamantly against or opposed to these changes and stuff like that, once you explain to them why we're doing it, although they might not be 100% bought in, most of them start to understand at least the rationale behind it. So I think it's as Steve said, a good idea and a good way to experiment with this kind of stuff.
And if we try something and it doesn't work, we don't have to keep doing it. It's just a truism though, that when you're planning streets, if you turn the dial up on safety, which I know we all want to do, we all want safer streets. You're sometimes going to make people wait a few more seconds. And I think that's an easy trade-off. And it's a sign that our city has the right priorities when we're privileging safety over the ability to go everywhere you want to go as fast as you possibly can.
Okay, roll call.
Neil,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Chisel, Luce,
Aye.
Zittergren.
Motion carried. Decorah Historic Preservation Commission appointment. And this is to fill a vacancy by Mark Branham. The application that I receive is from Nan St. Clair. And so I bring her name forward to fill that opening.
Move to accept the nomination.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Luce, seconded by Olson. Any discussion?
Excellent choice.
Seeing none. Roll call.
Luce,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Chisel, Neil,
Aye.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
I'm going to take the opportunity to move the announcements up to at this point, as we have 2 closed sessions and there may be announcements that people who are around might want to make. I'll make one announcement for Decorah News. My request from the Park and Rec Board was not to consider all camping fires, but what it was to look at guidelines for looking at how to perhaps measure emergency times when the air has been advertised as poor and has come over both the media and any type of website that you can get. But I wanted to clarify that for sure. I'm not against campfires. But I think when the air gets really bad and there's emergency warnings out, it'd be just like snow or ice or whatever. So I just wanted to clarify that as far as the park board was concerned. We have any other announcements we wanted to make?
I'd like to make one. Tomorrow, we're having a Decorah Drinking Water Protection Team meeting in preparation of our public meeting that will be held a week from Tuesday. And I'll read the announcement that Jeremy and Becky Ortman, our water quality consultant, came up with. The best way to assure we have economical, high-quality drinking water at the tap is to protect our beautiful water sources. The Decorah Drinking Water Protection Planning Team was formed in 2022 to enhance our precious drinking water supply through viable assessments and strategic planning efforts. The team invites local businesses, residents, and the public to attend an informational presentation on Tuesday, June 27th from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. in the public meeting room in the basement of the Decorah Public Library, 202 Winnebago Street. Greg Brennan, hydrogeologist with the Iowa Geological Survey, will present the 2023 Decorah Wellhead Protection Area Assessment Report specific to the area that produces Decorah source water. Those that wish to attend the meeting via Zoom, there's a Zoom thing. If you go on Decorah News, they have the Zoom contact that you can make there. And so if you're interested in our water quality that we have here in Decorah, please come and attend and learn more about it. Thank you.
I have a couple.
Okay, I'm doing-
Oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah, that's when I was.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that today is June 10th and it's federal holiday commemorating the emancipation of enslaved Africans in America. I know that it is a federal holiday. Some states choose to do it, some don't, but I did want to acknowledge it at our meeting. You had,
I just have, there's a Sustainability Commission meeting on Wednesday at 5:45 here in council chambers. I also wanted to recognize Juneteenth. I think any day that we can celebrate freedom for all and equality across our country is a good day. And I also want to extend a public hand of gratitude for Chief Smuchler. If this is your last time before us, it makes me very sad. But I also want to congratulate you on your new endeavors. It has been fantastic to have you at our side and to be able to trust you in the decisions that you're making. So thank you for everything that you've done for the city of Decorah.
Any other council have any other?
So I might add along Emily's note
Okay.
there, tonight being Chief Smutzler's last meeting. There will be a retirement open house here in the city council chambers on Friday, June 30th from 1 to 4 p.m. So invite the public to come, please, wish Chief Smutzler the best of luck in his future endeavors.
Is that when we're tasing the council? Or?
That might be his last action.
Okay, if there's not anything else from the council, I will look for a motion to go into closed session.
Second,
Motion made by Chisel, seconded by
Hadley.
Hadley. Roll call?
So Chisel, Hadley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you, staff, and thanks everyone who came and participated tonight.
I'd move we go into a closed session.
Second.
Yep, we gotta do a vote. Yep, so it's pursuant to 21.5.1(I) to evaluate professional competency of an individual's appointment, hiring, profession, or discharge being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to the individual's reputation. And that individual requests a closed session. Ready for roll call?
Yes.
Luce.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Zittergruen. Hadley. Johnson.
Aye.
Chisel. Nope, because the last time we go back over and then
Second.
To go out closed session, roll call.
I look a lot like.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna.
Chisel.
say that.
Lose.
Lose.
Olson. Hey. Zittergruen.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Neal.
Okay.
I recommend a 5% salary increase with an additional 2% performance-based increase.
And alteration.
Oh, and then, and an amendment to his contract for a 9-month separation for no cause.
Discussion. Hearing none, roll call.
Neal.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Hadley. Chisel. Thank you.